Hi everyone and welcome. This recording is brought to you by onemillionnights.com. Today I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon taking place in the sign of Capricorn on the 12th or 13th of January, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is also the first new moon of 2021, so it is kind of special and also very symbolic because the degree where it takes place in the sky also has a very big importance for certain reasons that I'm going to be speaking about a little bit later. But this is one celestial conversation which kind of ties together 2020 and 2021 in the sense that this is where we truly attempt to alchemize, transform, and work with everything that happened last year in our personal lives, but also, on the world stage, and through determination, ambition, trust in ourselves, faith, and of course, clinging on to the light at the end of the tunnel, we are actually going to start making very significant and profound changes in our lives. The desire and the catalyst for all of these changes, well, that is nothing new. That has been a major theme of 2020 in most of our lives. This is where we had to figure out who it is that we are in a most authentic and genuine manner. And for many people, it was more about everything that they were not, everything that was false or not very authentic in their lives. So a lot of people have purged all of these old programmings, old ambitions, old karmic influences that once were very relevant in their lives. But after having learned all the lessons, having accumulated all of the experience, well, who it is that we were maybe a year ago, for many of us it started 3 years ago once Saturn entered into Capricorn, well, who it is that we were was no longer authentic, either because we have achieved so very many things, we have fulfilled so very many karmic duties, soul contracts, certain things that needed to be done by us because we owed them to another person's soul. We had to be relevant figures in another person's life. It could have very well to do with sacrifice, with being there for other people in a specific moment in their lives when everything was at its hardest, for example, like someone loved, someone very important going through a crisis or an illness. But for other people, these soul contracts, so to speak, were quite literal, as in they physically had to do a certain kind of work or an activity or sacrifice material resources or get an extra job. And even though all of these things were truly challenging, hard, not very easy to process, still for most of us it was already done, the sacrifice was made, the soul contract was fulfilled, and everything that we needed to reflect on, everything that all those challenging events showed us about ourselves, about our greatest purposes in life, and as I said earlier, who it is that we authentically are, our true sense of identity without the past, without the education, without the programming, and of course everything that we are not, or everything that we no longer resonates with us, and who it is that we are becoming, who it is that we are without the old skin, without the shell, without the old problems, limitations, unconscious patterns and blockages, everything negative, limiting that basically we picked up and carried with us for so very many years. So all of these things, one way or another, symbolically, psychologically, spiritually, and for many people quite materially in physical life as well, have already played out. And from an astrological perspective, this was basically the Pluto-Saturn conjunction which took place on the 12th of January in 2020, so last year. And that was a very rare but extremely potent aspect which transformed all of us one way or another. And this transformation also had a lot of material elements to it because it was Capricorn. So regardless if it was inner structures which crumbled and changed, or if all of these had a very strong material element to them, for example, like having to change jobs or losing jobs, or losing our wealth, our material security, material freedom, maybe losing a loved one or having to sacrifice for a loved one, having to give up on very many things which kept us in a comfort zone. Well, it doesn't matter the nature of this change, even if it's something totally subtle and psychological, well, it still reflected so very intensely in our physical lives, and it changed our relationships. It changed the relationships we had with the self, the way we perceive and understand work, career, life goal, life path. For some people, it changed them profoundly because it highlighted to them that a work or a life goal, a life purpose should not be about constant sacrifice, constant struggle, never ever getting what you want, what you will, but rather it has to be balanced because everything that we do in life also has to serve whatever we embody, so our physical selves as well. Nothing can be achieved without that, because that is one of our greatest duties. Let's say the divine gave us a physical shell, but now it is our main responsibility to take care of that and keep it in a certain kind of harmony. But for other people, those who usually lived a very self-centered life, for them it is the other side of the spectrum where they understood that they have to share everything that they have with the world, with other people, with loved ones, or simply with the divine. So everything that they have, everything that they do, all the joy, power, security, or material wealth it offers them, well, that also has to be shared one way or another with others, because no human being can live outside of a collective unless they have a very special, let's say, karmic journey in this life, something totally unusual. But the vast majority of us, well, we still are dependent one way or another, even if it's just physically, even if it's just materially, we're still codependent on the human collective and whatever it's doing, wherever it's evolving towards, etc. And the reason why I spoke about January 2020, so a year ago, is because this new moon takes place very, very close to the degree where that January's Saturn-Pluto conjunction took place. So this new moon energizes that degree, and naturally it's not alone, it is also conjunct Pluto, a planet which also returned back to where it was January last year. So whatever this new moon brings in our lives, whatever new beginning, it also has an element of revelation and refreshing our memories. Everything that we have went through, starting from that Saturn-Pluto conjunction and how it changed our lives, how it transformed ourselves, how it transformed the relation we have with our material lives like career, work, money management, debt, responsibilities, duties, hierarchy, our position in society, how permissive we are of other people influencing our lives, how permissive we are of resources and material gains influencing our lives, and everything that has to do with this. And because this, as I said earlier, this new moon is conjunct Pluto, the new moon taking place in around 23 degrees and 13 minutes of the sign of Capricorn, and Pluto is at 24 degrees 35 minutes of the above mentioned sign. So without a doubt, this is about enabling the last changes, the last elements of transformation. This is where our lives will start to reflect, even materially, even physically, all of those inner changes that we have been through, enabled, worked on all throughout 2020. So, this can be a really good news for a lot of people, because those who have done a lot of inner work, those who have processed everything, that journey usually meant a lot of losses, terminations, things exiting from their life, purges, but didn't have a regenerative phase where things were replaced, or they had other options, they had other things to work with in order to start rebuilding their lives. Now, if this regenerative moment didn't take place, this is a high chance for this new moon to trigger that phoenix expression of Pluto, because yes, Pluto is death, destruction, transformation, purges, etc. But the other side of it is regeneration, rebirth, resurrection sometimes. And it is these second expressions of Pluto symbolism which works so very well with a new moon, which is basically a new beginning, and a new beginning which we can invite in our lives if we are whole, if we are intact, if we have everything to work with in order to follow it up. And also the main celestial conversation that the sun and moon are going to hold, besides the conjunction with Pluto, is a trine with Neptune, which means divine inspiration, divine guidance, even divine intervention, our dreams, our souls, even our unconscious patterns are there this time to support us, because we healed them, because we changed them, we transformed them. So now it is a totally different expression to what we had before. This is where our hope, our optimism, our faith, our deep belief that the universe works in our favor can simply do miracles. In other words, this can be a really powerful fated energy, bringing a lot of new beginnings in our lives, especially those which we need urgently, those without which we can simply not move forward, we cannot advance, we cannot start embracing and building our futures. And also this new beginning can be quite quick and spontaneous, because Capricorn is all about the past and how the past influences the present. Because Capricorn is the sign of structure, so the present is built on the structures of the past. But since we healed the past and we had a year to do so, this is where things can truly change. Our present can change because we healed the past, and that immediately means that the future will look totally different as well. And this is what makes me think that whatever this new moon can stir up in our lives, it can be really quick and very, very practical. And the practical element to this, and the urgency as well, is due to different celestial conversations taking place in the sky at the same time as the new moon, even though they're not connected to the new moon. still they're very, very significant and influential. Well, one of these celestial conversations is Venus in the sign of Capricorn holding a trine with Mars and Uranus. Mars and Uranus are in Venus's home sign of Taurus. So this already points to the fact that there is a very strong synergy between these planets. And basically Venus is the lower benefic bestower of blessings, good fortune, pleasure, everything that we love, and especially in Capricorn, everything that we find valuable, everything that offers us material, earthly power and influence, our own values and worth as professionals, highlighting the importance of our talents, skills, masteries, everything that we have learned, all the things that we have accomplished in our past as professionals, any domain that we have had relevant and significant activities in the past, of course. And why not even people who we helped as professionals, even if it had nothing to do with work in its classic sense, even if it was a gesture of kindness, a gesture of goodwill, well, it still matters a lot, because every little thing that we have done increased our value, our worth, our reputation as masters of the skills that we have used. So this trine, it can be really, really good for business. It can be really good for projects. It can be really good for finding work, or sometimes that work or an offer, maybe a collaboration, maybe someone seeking your professional expertise just falling into your lap, because this is a trine, so this is easy energy, this is a divine blessing. And with Mars and Uranus having a lot to do with this at the same time, because Mars and Uranus are also conjunct, not exactly, but they're very close together, so that is already an ongoing active conjunction. And these two planets are the quickest energies of all the zodiac, so that can mean instant things, there and now. And Uranus is synchronicity, being at the right place at the right time. So this energy is very, very lucky. All you need to do is be brave enough to simply seize the offer, say yes, even if it takes you out of your comfort zone. That is very likely because of that Uranus. But the rewards, the opportunities, the possibilities that whatever this new moon can conjure up in your life, well, they are more than worth it. And Venus in the sign of Capricorn, it is a very stable energy. It seeks stability, long-term groundedness, and of course reliability. So Venus in Capricorn always seeks commitment, always seeks things which are possible, which are probable, and which work very well. And why not? This can equally be a romantic energy. It can be finding a partner who can just support you, who can open up new doors for you, and who is loyal and committed to you. Of course, this just doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. It can simply be coming across the perfect associate, the perfect business partner, the perfect professional, whatever that you need, who doesn't just inspire trust and, well, power as in competence, but also offers you chances, options, opportunities which were not available to you before. And this can also come from the past. This can also stem from something that you might have done once. So the rebirth of an old association, an old partnership. It can also equally be where that partner is not a person, but rather an institution or an organization For example, benefits, help coming from the government, help coming from local community, help coming, let's say, from a bank or whatever, from a wealthy family member. That can also be perfectly valid. But there is still an element of surprise and unexpected here because of that Uranus. And of course, let's not forget that Venus can play out in a totally different way, where if you are in an established bond, in a committed relationship, maybe it is your partner who will find a big opportunity, or these blessings may enter into the life of your partner, who will naturally share it with you, so it is still good news. And also this energy has to be earthly and very practical, because both of these planets speak from earth signs, so it's not just a symbolism, it is not just an idea or a suggestion. Whatever it is, it can influence in a very intense manner your material, your financial life, or your career, or your professional life. Now, a totally different interpretation of this energy might not really have anything to do with others offering you anything, because this Mars and Uranus can be seen as your actions. And especially Uranus, it can mean epiphany, it can mean a bright idea, it can mean a brainstorming, it can mean thinking of something totally unique, totally new, revolutionary, something that you might have never done before, but this time you have Mars there. So Mars is courage, action, doing something practical in order to act upon that idea or plan or whatever revelation or epiphany that Uranus can represent. And those actions, even if it's as simple as speaking it, sharing it, voicing it, the sign of Taurus also rules the throat, so the voice as well. So it can be simple as expressing your idea or sharing it with someone who you deeply trust. But whatever you do, it can be extremely lucky. It can be either an extremely magnetic idea which other people are simply gonna love, so you will find a lot of support. But it can also be a kind of situation where you're at the right place at the right time, that Uranus, and things just come together and something new, a solution, something that you might have never imagined of doing is gonna be born there and then, and that's gonna be how this new moon manifests in your life, and it gives you a lot of options, solutions, and the future that you envisaged is right there before you. For some people, this expression of Mars and Uranus can simply be just an attitude, for example, at work or in a community, where you just stand up for yourself, you act with self-trust, with belief, with courage, you voice your opinion, you voice your thoughts, and this can turn you very magnetic, and all of a sudden, because you stepped out of your comfort zone, something wonderful, a blessing can happen in your life. What exactly it is not known, because Uranus is the planet of surprises, of shocks, of the unexpected, especially when it converses with Mars, the activator, the planet of action basically. But either way, the simple trine between Venus and Mars usually represents getting something that you desire, getting something that you have worked for, getting something that you truly need to have in your life, regardless of what that is. But because this trine is from Earth sign, we can imagine that it is something practical, material, or at least it has to do with your physical body, the pleasures of the body, the pleasure of the five senses. Something that can offer you safety and comfort for the long term. Now, of course, there are other celestial conversations in the sky taking place simultaneously, and these are not very harmonious energies because Mars, Uranus, and Black Moon Lilith are conjunct to one another in the sign of Taurus, and they square the conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. Jupiter is sandwiched between Saturn and Mercury, so it means that the symbolism and the manifestation of these squares is that much more expanded. It is urgent, it is very, very focused and concentrated because of the Jupiter. And it is these squares which represent the great urgency, which represent the haste, which represent that we genuinely need to achieve some kind of breakthrough, not just because that is how we want it or that is how we feel it, but our physical situations, our material situation, social, economic, or regardless of how we look at this, are gonna demand this. We will need urgent solutions, decisions, choices in our lives. Saturn can be seen as the restrictions, the limitations, especially in the sign of Aquarius. Well, it means the social distancing rules and all the restrictions and limitations brought on by this COVID situation, and we can see them becoming tighter, more severe. In some places in the world, it's gonna be even more tighter, so to speak, than as it was in March last year. And of course, Jupiter can represent the urgency of all of this, but at the same time, all the resources, all the possibilities available to us collectively, of course, to the scientists, leaders, professionals, etc., to handle this situation. And if we are not using everything that we can, well, you can imagine that that is going to stir conflict, that is going to stir profound dissatisfaction from people. And finally, that Mercury is communication, it is news, media, the official statistics, the reports, the communication. So this kind of means that opinions, visions, perceptions, perspective are going to clash. So this means a huge mediatic warfare. And because of this Martian square, well, you can imagine that everything is going to be so very heated. And in order to stop these battles, these conflicts, these clashes, there might be a lot of censorship on free speech and expression and whatever we share on the internet, social media, YouTube, whatever. And this can make things that much worse. But at the same time, Mercury squaring Mars, angry words, conflicts resulting out of communication, miscommunication, misunderstanding, but also, people challenging everything that they hear, everything that is being told. And to make this worse, Gemini, the sign of communication, basically, the sign which rules social media and the way news is delivered, well, it has the North Node in it, and that North Node is squaring Neptune. So that means half-truths, confusion, of deception, lies, misinterpretation, misunderstanding information. But of course, at the same time, all of us have to admit that no one truly knows the whole truth, the big picture. No one has the objective reflection of whatever is going on, regardless if we look at this scientifically, as in the science of the COVID or the solutions or the political element, the economic element. No one actually knows 100% what is going on, where this is leading us, and what solutions can be, working as a charm, or which ones are destined to fail. But of course the South Node is also in Sagittarius, and it also squares Neptune, and that means that a lot of people have a very rigid, intolerant, fanatical, dogmatic approach to all of this. For example, those individuals who are 1,000,000% convinced that the conspiracy theories that they believe are the ultimate and unquestionable truth. So all of these are sources of major conflict, battles, and as I said, those battles are going to be fought mostly through media, online communication, the internet, so to speak. But let us not forget that Eris, goddess of discord, is still squaring Pluto, which means revolution, protests, etc. And due to the fact that Mars is getting so close to that Uranus, this kind of amplifies the pressure cooker. This makes people that much more frustrated. They just desire their freedom, their voices to be heard and respected with all of their souls, every cell in their bodies. So that is a strong willpower that is bound to detonate around the 20th of January when Mars perfects its conjunction with Uranus. So that is going to be a moment when the pressure is going to be at maximum. Now the square between Saturn and Uranus is going to be an energy which dominates most of 2021. These two planets are going to be meeting each other in this square 3 times. So the first meeting is somewhere in February, the 17th of February to be more precise. Then we have another one on the 14th of June, and the final one is on the 24th of December 2021, of course. And what they represent is basically how the old value systems, the old traditions, the customs, everything that we are used to, especially regarding the principles which govern the well-being, the functioning of society, these are going to be upgraded. So the old has to fall and the new has to take its place. But it's not as simple as this, because there are so very many elements from the old which are actually treasures, which are valuable, which are basically part of our history and identity. So those need to be selected out and preserved. And of course, at the same time, some of the new, some of the revolutionary, some of the most brightest and visionary ideas can simply not be enabled, or they cannot be introduced for the simple fact that certain people, a part of society, is not ready to embrace them yet. So all these squares are going to do all throughout 2021 is find their balance, their appropriate way of expression. So this will mean a clash of opinions. This will mean having to select what we preserve and what we have to discard. Also having to refine and adapt the most revolutionary, futuristic and visionary ideas and principles in order to function practically. And at the same time, the biggest part of this change is an economic one. Value system, basically. How resources are being shared, how the available resources serve each and every individual composing society in an more equal, more equitable manner, how no one is left behind, how no one is abandoned, how everyone gets at least the bare minimum, the decency needed for survival, and, revolutionizing, digitalizing banking system, money, currencies. This is where cryptocurrencies are going to gain a whole new ground. But as I said, this is a long-lasting energy, and change comes slowly, each step at a time, each brick at a time. and naturally each ideological battle at a time. But that doesn't necessarily have to mean violence and, loss of lives, loss of freedom, destruction, and a physical expression of battle. But because Mars is involved right now in this picture, especially around the 20th of January, well, that has a very high chance to play out as like physical kind of violence, where people truly start going on the streets and demanding their rights and actually fighting. And another energy which makes this that much more severe, well, it's naturally Dark Moon Lilith, which can be seen as our shadows, maybe the ego, maybe the inner animal inside of us, especially in the sign of Taurus, where basically that Dark Moon Lilith serves our physical senses, our physical well-being, our comfort. So we might be willing to fight for all of that more than any other time. But that makes so much sense, because that is exactly what these restrictions are targeting. The expression basically of Taurus, not being able to enjoy our physical lives, not being able to go wherever our heart wants to go. For example, Taurus is nature, so travel here and there and see all the wonders of nature. Taurus is also, as I said, the pleasures of the five senses, so taste, smell, touch, etc. Some people are so very fed up of not being able to hug another person, touch another person, get close to another person, that they won't bear it no longer. And at the same time, if all of these are severely lacking, that Lilith in Taurus can very well turn into a depression, where there might be nothing wrong with your mind, so to speak, but because you're depraved of all these things that make you human and make you feel alive, well, naturally, a part of your being won't understand that you still have to respect the rules, etc. But like with every astrological aspect, even the hard and tensionate ones, there is a good side to this energy. Oh yes, until now I said the not so pleasant expressions of this, but from a totally different perspective, especially individually, that means courage, ambition, determination, finding the willpower to do everything that it takes, even if it means waiting more, being patient, sacrificing more to get where we want in life. Aquarius is the sign of our futures, our hopes and dreams. So of course we are willing to do everything that it needs, everything that it takes, in order for us to get there, to achieve it, to be able to live it. So this Mars doesn't necessarily have to mean aggression for everyone. It can simply mean ambition and willpower to endure, to get out of our comfort zones and trying things which we have never ever imagined before. For example, someone who has been like an intellectual all their lives, and right now in order to get to where they want, they might have to try like physical kind of work. And as uncomfortable and as unusual it might feel for them, they might be determined to do anything just to get closer to their dreams and being able to live life the way they want to. So Aquarius. And even if the expressions of these squares might not have to do that much with this new moon, the energy itself, the urgency, the tension, the pressure, the imminent need, well, that acts like a slingshot, like a driving force, causing us to get to where we need to be that much quicker, because the urgency is going to be there not just individually, but also collectively and socially. So it does help a lot, especially if we have learned to stay detached from the collective drama. If we are not immersed into that, then these squares are just driving forces giving us a big push from the back in order for us to jump out of the old normality, the old stability which no longer works. And of course to invite and attract everything fresh and new, especially that we urgently need in our lives. Well, this concludes today's horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. I do hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. And please remember, we are looking for sponsors. We won't be able to exist much longer and deliver you these free guidances, horoscopes, readings, and tarot courses without your support. So, if you'd like to sponsor us and help us exist in the future, you can find our email address in the description below. Thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a blessed new moon. Until next time, bye for now.